that it's going to happen, Sergio. The Instagram video that Gary Russell put out there, it didn't make a lot of sense. Russell said, all right, I got an offer sheet from you, but it doesn't say that Matchroom's going to buy it. It doesn't say if DAZN is going to buy it. I can say unequivocally that Matchroom wants Gary Russell versus Devin Haney, and DAZN wants Gary Russell versus Devin Haney. So if you're Gary Russell, the clock is ticking. If you want that fight, Gary Russell, you've got to go out there and seize it. Accept the terms of the deal and get in the ring with Devin Haney.
An attorney of mine. And in the first line of the term sheet states that this fight will only take place based upon only if DAZN and Matchroom picks it up. That's a red flag. That's a red flag, because if y'all gonna make a fight, DAZN and Matchroom should have already picked it up, and they should have already been included within the contract, because DAZN is pretty much like this Devin Haney's promoter, and Matchroom is pretty much like the network or whatever that we would be competing on. So how the fuck y'all gonna send me a blank check? That's basically what they did, y'all. They sent me a blank check, y'all. They sent me a term sheet without the network or the promotion, which is DAZN and Matchroom, without them being included in it at all. And
as you all heard on the clip, DAZN confirmed that they are 100% backing Devin Haney versus Gary Russell fight. They want the fight, which cosigns and proves everything Bill Haney stated on Split Decision and Boxing Hood. On the other hand, they debunked every single Gary Russell complaint that weren't adding up or making any sense when it came to the term sheet. I tell you guys all of the time, what happens in the dark will always come to light. The truth will always find its way out. You know why that is? Because the truth is always inevitable. With that being stated, more than a week ago, Gary Russell came out claiming that the term sheet was not valid. It was not 100% legit because it was a blank term sheet. DAZN and Matchroom, they weren't on board, according to Gary. Come to find out, all of them statements made by Gary were completely false, to say the least. It turned out to be everybody is on board, including DAZN, Matchroom, Al Heyman's, PBC, Devin Haney Promotion, except of the one and only Gary Russell. He's the only one not on board. He's the only one that's not on the ship. Gary Russell ejected to his little bitty boat, trying to find a way out. That's pretty much the moral of the story. Let me emphasize. So Gary Russell made his demands, in which Team Haney wrote the term sheet based on his demands that he requested. So when his demands got delivered to him, he made a false complaint in order to refuse to sign the term sheet. Now, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, the term sheet is not a contract. Both fighters have to agree to terms before the contract is written, because the contract will be written based on them terms that both fighters agree to. Therefore, DAZN can't write a contract if Gary Russell haven't agreed to his own terms he requested. However, what I found more intriguing was the fact that Gary Russell was complaining about a non-existing issue in which Haney team still entertained him. Let me give you guys a perfect example. Gary Russell's main complaint was DAZN and Matchroom, they not back in the fight. They not on board. He smelled bullshit in the term sheet. Now, mind you, this was more than a week ago, in which Team Haney responded on Split Decision by coaching Gary Russell as far as the 1-2 steps that you actually should be doing if you really trying to fight, in which Bill Haney told Gary Russell on split decision, just make the adjustments on the term sheet, write whatever extra demands you want, then send it our way, and we will gladly deliver your wishes. Now, would you believe if I tell you guys that Gary Russell haven't responded to this day? The fact that Gary haven't adjusted nor made his extra demands to this day tells the whole story. Because every time Gary Russell actually had a demand, Team Haney responded by meeting his demands in a day time span. In the meantime, it's been more than a week and Gary Russell can't even tell Team Haney what's wrong and what exactly he want adjusted on the term sheet. I mean, all you have to do is just think about it. Does it really take that long to figure out what's wrong in the term sheet? Especially when you have the best manager in the game, Al Heyman. The answer is pretty simple. Absolutely not. It don't take that long. The only possible way is that Gary Russell is taking that long trying to find something wrong since there is nothing wrong. In other words, he's trying to find a way out. I mean, if you're truly sincere about negotiations, you have to be going back and forth. That's the least you could do. But if you're still ignoring Team Haney to this day, it seemed like you're really desperately trying to find a way out. Especially when Gary Russell goes to his Instagram to talk to his fans. However, he won't respond nor pick up the call from Team Haney in order to make this fight. Now, it's one thing if Gary Russell responded to Team Haney, then took to his Instagram in order to update his fans on his next move or even the move he just made, like he previously been doing. However, it's another to talk to the fans before taking care of business. Now, what sense does that make? How you gonna give the fans an update when you don't even have anything to give the fans an update about, since you have not made a single step forward in order to make the Devin Haney fight? Truth be told, every time Gary Russell goes on live, he makes an additional stipulation, an additional excuse, an additional complaint, making multiple steps backwards to get away from the Devin Haney fight. So while Devin Haney keep making step forwards, responding to Gary Russell demands, meeting his demands in a day time span, Gary Russell stay complaining, making step backwards in the process. That's why we not getting this fight. Because while Devin Haney is stepping forward to the plate, Gary Russell is stepping backwards, getting away from the $1.5 million that's on the plate that he requested in order to fight Crawford at 147. Therefore, in this moment in time, it's fair to say Devin Haney caught Gary Russell bluffing, in which even the network DAZN and the promotional company Matchroom is responding to Gary Russell's false statements, clarifying that they are interested in the fight, they demanding the fight. More than the Gamboa fight, they willing to replace Gamboa with Gary Russell for Devin Haney. Furthermore, to address the super decafs on steroids that's making excuses for Gary Russell that Gary is not even making. And what makes matter worse, Gary Russell, his own statements debunk these excuses made by these decafs. What makes them worse, they actually decafs on steroids. So let's get to them. The first excuse, the hottest excuse from last week that came out of the oven, Floyd Mayweather blocking the fight. Now, how idiotic does that sound? The whole purpose of an excuse is to try to justify a particular situation some way, somehow. It needs to make sense, and most of the time, for the excuse to be valid, it have to be a fact. It have to be truthful. For example, I lost the fight because I had a hand injury, which in my mind, I believe I lost the fight because of my injury. Therefore, if I did suffer an injury, I can use that excuse. It will be somewhat valid, but still, it remains an excuse because when you do go in the ring, you have to find a way to win. However, how desperate can you really be to say or claim Floyd Mayweather blocking Gary Russell from fighting Devin Haney and justify that by saying that's my opinion? Well, keep your opinion in your a-hole right where it came from. Because that's just like saying, yeah, I've fought this guy like 3 times already, and every time I get knocked out in the first round. But in my opinion, I'm still the better fighter. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Some opinions are bigger than most. Just like some a-holes are bigger than most, depending on what you do. So come out of the closet, decafs. That's why facts trump opinions. One truth will put away a million made-up lies. With that being stated, back to stating the facts. Floyd Mayweather is neither Gary Russell promoter nor Devin Haney. He have nothing to do with either one. Yes, Floyd Mayweather is a PBC partner. However, the fight is not even taking place on PBC. PBC is not interested in this fight. So like Bill Haney stated on Boxing Hood, why will Floyd Mayweather keep Devin off Gary back when Gary disrespected Floyd? You all have to keep in mind the reason why Floyd Mayweather is not entertaining the Gervonta versus Devin fight is because Gervonta is his prodigy and he knows Devin is a threat to anybody. He the future of boxing. However, why does he care about Gary? If anything, he want to see Gary get beat. If we are being truthful, as much as Gary disrespected Floyd. So since that's the case, Floyd don't pull any strings when it comes to Gary Russell signing anything. Gary is his own boss. He a free agent, he stated, right? So all of a sudden, Floyd Mayweather got strings over him. But again, that's desperate fans speaking. Because even Devin debunked that by stating Floyd Mayweather told him, eat him alive, and he gave him the green light. So what are you decafs on steroids talking about? However, the latest excuse, now the fans want to put the blame on Al. They want to claim Al Heyman is blocking the fight, when Gary himself debunked them silly claims. Gary stated that Al Heyman gave him his blessings to go and fight Devin Haney on DAZN.
And I already spoke to Al. Al said, you know what I'm saying, well, Gary, you know, you, I mean, we have a good business relationship, you know, but you can fight wherever you want. You know, if these guys are serious about it, tell them to send you a contract. So send me the contract. I'll fight you for the 1.5. I'm going to beat your little ass, shorty.
This is out of Gary Russell's own mouth. Then the excuse escalated to the next level, which the fans started claiming Al Heyman is not interested in the fight. But see, the fans are so desperate because Gary's putting them in a tough position. Now they started making things up. Because according to Gary himself, again, he stated Al Heyman is not interested in the fight because Al told him Devin Haney is the champion. You fighting for his title. So they have to put the money up.
Al Heyman not going to put no motherfucking money up for Devin Haney. You know what I'm saying? He was like, well, Gary, you know, he's the champion. He's the one that come up with that. You know, it's not the champion. The challenger ain't the one to come up with the figures. You know what I'm saying? So if he really want to fight, tell him to send the contract. Send the 1.5. I'm going to beat your ass, shorty.
Therefore, the excuses the fans are making been debunked by the same man they defending. And now, last but not least, Gary Russell came out last Friday claiming that he have an issue with the date. Gary Russell stated Don't let them fool you guys. That was a Gamboa date. I'm not ready to fight November 7th. However, I really wonder who's trying to fool who. Because Gary Russell knew that from the jump. See, Devin Haney was negotiating with Gamboa, which he's also an Al Haymon fighter, where the negotiations were going completely smooth before Gary Russell joined the negotiation table. Gary Russell called out Devin Haney, in fact, for fighting a Gamboa, claiming you cherry picking, fighting Gervonta Tank Davis leftovers, fight me. In which that's exactly what Devin Haney started doing. He requested Team Haney to see if he's bluffing or not. So instead of fighting Gamboa, he told his team, I'd rather fight Gary Russell instead. Therefore, from the jump, Gary Russell knew he was replacing Gamboa as Devin Haney's next opponent. So why act surprised all of a sudden? Gary knew this from the start of negotiations, which he immediately found out he was replacing the Gamboa date. So the fact that Gary is trying to act like that's something new, when he knew that from the jump, is not a good look on his behalf. Second of all, more than a week ago, Gary Russell came out turning down the Devin Haney fight, claiming they sent him a valid term sheet. It was a blank check, according to him. Gary Russell did not mention anything about a fight date. He did not complain about a fight date. Now, since then, keep in mind, Gary Russell haven't responded to Team Haney till this day. However, some way, somehow, the blank check issue got resolved without him even adjusting anything on the term sheet. Meanwhile, now there's another issue, which is the fight date. But the $1 million question, why didn't Gary Russell say something then? Why wait till now? Like I said before, it's always something. And I found it super hypocritical for Gary to try to paint the narrative or make it seem like Devin Haney is trying to fight Gamboa instead of him, when Devin Haney is only fighting Gamboa because Gary Russell is refusing to fight him. And he was going to fight Gamboa to begin with. He only took his eyes off Gamboa because Gary said something. But ever since he caught his bluff, he back to business. On the other hand, Gary Russell told everybody that will listen that if I don't get everything I requested by Friday, then I'm moving on. I'm already looking for another opponent, I believe for Tuna. So with that being stated, Friday came, he got everything he requested, and he still turned down the fight. However, the fans want to go at Devin when Gary told us he's going to look elsewhere, and that's exactly what he did. Also, the fact that Gary Russell is not responding to Team Haney till this day, when they asking him what adjustment you want made on the term sheet, in which Gary Russell is refusing to respond. Forget refusing to sign with a DH pen. He's even refusing to respond to an email on a business level. Therefore, if you don't request a fight date, how are you going to complain about the fight date that was given to you? Especially when you think about the fact that Gary Russell was calling out Devin Haney all the way back in April, 5 months ago. Gary Russell was calling out Devin Haney. Gary Russell hopped on the scale. He was 143 pounds, solid. He was cut. He said he was ready then. And then 5 months later, with an 8-week camp, he still ain't ready now. So to all of the fans, how you guys gonna justify Gary Russell telling the lightweight division to stay ready because he coming? He was ready in April. 6 months later, with an 8-week camp, he still ain't ready. When he was actually presented with $1.5 million, his highest purse to this day. However, Gary is not responding to Team Haney to this day. Therefore, if you're not ready, don't be calling anybody out till you're ready. And Gary is actually putting pressure on himself because Devin Haney told Gary Russell, you want it later, I want it now and later. So if you're not ready now, whenever you're ready, you could get it. So to all of the Gary Russell fans, don't feel some type of way. Devin been the A boogeyman. Devin been on his pretty boy shit. Devin told Ryan Garcia, you named me last. I pulled up on you. I want it now. T.O. told Devin the same thing. This fight gonna happen down the line. Devin told him, I want it now and later. Therefore, this is nothing new. Devin been called out Gervonta. Devin had Lomachenko requesting a French fries belt, equivalence of that belt you buy from Walmart in order to keep your pants up. It's literally the same thing. You could purchase that belt from Walmart. It's called the French fries belt. So with that being stated, don't feel some type of way to all the Gary Russell fans. Devin been the A boogeyman, the A-class boogeyman. As far as I know, Gary Russell was the boogeyman, but his title got snatched by Devin Haney. Therefore, respect that man. Respect is earned, not given. And I truly believe Devin earned all the respect from the DMV. He have the key to the city. Furthermore, the moral of the story, whenever Gary Russell is actually ready, he can get the fight. Devin told Gary Russell he could get it now or later. I truly believe the fight might actually never happen because it's stylistically horrible for Gary Russell. For the people that know boxing, you guys know Devin will be able to touch Gary Russell a mile away since he have the reach and height advantage on a whole nother scale. On top of all of that, he's the bigger guy. You telling me you're going to give Devin Haney the size advantage in a fight? Man, it's looking worse and worse. Devin is also as fast and skilled as Gary. So with the fact that Devin is a boxer and Gary Russell is also a boxer, how is Gary Russell going to win the fight? And what makes the matter worse, Devin could also bang in the inside. He could fight his ass off in the inside. So like I said, stylistically is horrible for Gary Russell. That's why I believe Gary Russell is rethinking this fight. So it doesn't mean that Gary Russell is not a bad man. It just means Devin is the baddest man on the planet. Even Gary fans know that. Most of them really don't want to see the fight. That's why they keep making excuses that Gary is not even making. But at the end of the day, or at least the night, that's what fighters do. They fight to get paid. With the facts being stated, I put the whole absolute truth together like puzzle. So for biased media, they know the truth deep inside, but it never been about the truth. If it don't fit their agenda, they could care less. They are so weak mentally that they allow their emotion to block their vision from seeing the truth. That's why I call them the Stevie Wonders of the boxing world. And shout out to Stevie Wonder too, because even Stevie Wonder does not have to wonder why Gary Russell wants zero confrontation with Devin Haney anymore. So with that being stated, subscribe below if you're trying to get smarter by the minute. If you're trying to get dumber by the second, don't. And listen to these decafs, the dumb casual ass fans / old media that don't know shit about boxing. Word to Roger Mayweather, may he rest in peace, inshallah. Shout out to my broski, my Akhi Dante, for being the entrepreneur of new media that I'm a part of, the real media in the sport of boxing. that state the facts objectively, being zero bias. What makes new media unique? We approach a situation like an attorney would. Then we make judgment. Unlike biased media, that's full of hate and emotion. With that being stated, subscribe and click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post on Split Decision. It's a boxing debate / talk show, mixed, master engineered, produced by yours truly, Akhi, the past, present, and future undisputed pound for pound. When it comes to debating, I got these decafs shook. They scared to look every time Akhi's on TV, because it's always bad news for these decafs. The truth is their kryptonite. Akhi is not undefeated for no reason. I'm undefeated because the truth is undefeated. So peep game. 3 things that will always come out: the sun, the moon, and the truth. That's just destiny. And to all of the decafs, this is a direct challenge. Grow the cojones and call in. I can't even pay a decaf to call in. I ran out of decafs on Split Decision. I'm telling you, 1 trillion of you decafs can't hold me back. More importantly, I truly appreciate all the love and support. I've been humbled by all the love and support. In order to be an Akhi of mine, a broski of mine, all you have to do is subscribe and click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post, and to be continued on the next episode of Akhi TV. Peace, and we out here.